In this lesson, we'll continue to add detail to the walkie-talkie body. Here we have our little bump outs, and if I turn back on the antenna and the volume knob, you see we have that nice little offset that kind of adds that level of realism to these. Hide both those layers again. So all we're going to do to make these become one is just to do a Boolean union, and that's this icon right here. Booleans are also under your solid menu, and you can just select from them here. They don't actually call them out as Booleans for all of these, but that's union, difference, intersection, Boolean split, two objects, and create a solid. I typically just pick them from here. So again, I'm going to choose Boolean union, and a little tip is whatever layer you want these to end up on, that's the one you want to pick. So I'm going to join the three of these together. It's different than a subtraction, but if I pick this purple one first, then when it Booleans these together, it's going to leave them on this main body layer, which is what I want. So I have that. I'll select that one. I'll select that one. And I'll hit enter. And notice they turn purple. And if I select this, I'm now selecting these pieces as well. So those have become part of that. And if I go to a ghosted mode, you can see there's no antenna inside here and there's no volume knob inside here. Notice if I turn those on, those are jutting through. So now those aren't just cut in there. They're actually part of this main body now. So let's go ahead and we'll turn on the antenna and the volume knob, and we're just going to do a simple Boolean difference here. So I'll take my main body and we're going to use the antenna and the volume knob to cut holes in here. And it'll just make the model look that much more realistic, and I'll show you how. So I have the body selected. I'll come over here and I'm going to do a Boolean difference. Now I want to be careful. I want to make sure that delete input is equal to no. The reason for that is if that says yes, it's going to throw away these two pieces after they do their job. And I want it to keep these two pieces because these are part of my model. So I can select both of those, enter. See that created meshes, that tells me it's successful. And now notice when I turn these off, now instead of these being capped, we actually have holes down in here that these parts will sit in. And that's going to make this look much more realistic when we come back in and we'll add a little fillet edge here. All right. So that looks good. So we'll go ahead and we'll add a fillet around these objects. And let's see what we get. We'll have to play with the size a little bit on this. I'm going to do this one first because I do want them to match. And this is going to be the most critical one, trying to get a fillet to run through there, I would imagine. So again, I can choose fillet edge from over here. Now this time I definitely want to choose chain edges. And if I don't choose chain edges, I have to go through here and individually select all of these. And as you can see, there's little bits and pieces all around here. So this will make this much easier. I just click once. And because these are all tangent, it's able to automatically select all of them. I hit enter. Gives me a few more options here. I'm going to hit enter again. And I'm going to switch preview equals yes. Now you'll notice, even though I have this set to 1 millimeter, this isn't a constant radius all the way around here. And that's because we're using a rolling ball as a rail type. So what that is if you took this curve and ran a ball bearing around that curve, this is the only places it would actually touch because of the shapes going on. Anywhere there's a tight angle, then that ball bearing won't be able to drop into that area. So we're going to switch that. And I'm going to try distance from edge and see what we get here. And we're still just doing 1 millimeter. So that looks pretty good, and hopefully that'll work. And that's all purple, so that tells me that that worked. Let's put a nice fillet on there. And let me just switch to render mode. So if I do Control-Alt-R, now we're in render mode, and you can see what a difference there is between this and this. All right, so we know that 1 millimeter worked well for this, so let's try 1 millimeter over here and see what happens. Fillet edge. We're going to chain edges again, so we don't have to pick all these little bits. That selected the entire chain. You can see there's a lot of little pieces here. That's what I was hoping was going to happen. So you can see by how this looks, it's not a nice, smooth-looking shape, and that tells us that this is going to fail. So we'll need to do this a different way. I'll just go ahead and hit enter to finish the command so you can see what it looks like when it does fail. So what it does is it makes these surfaces, but it can't join any of them together, and it can't split this object. So if I go under my select and I select new and delete those, you'll notice that this is all still intact. So nothing happened to it at all. So we're going to have to approach this one just a little bit differently. And the way that we're going to do that is to duplicate the edge. So we'll come down here to our Curve from Object menu, and we're going to choose Duplicate Edge. Now, unfortunately, there isn't a chain command on this one, so we do have to go around all of these individually, and we will have to select them. So I'll just kind of move my camera in and out to make sure I have everything. And that seems to be pretty good. I hit Enter to apply that. And now, even though I have these, I do need to join them together, so I'll just press this little join icon. Notice my command line tells me they joined into one closed curve. So I can select these and I'll type pipe. We use 1 millimeter because that's the same radius we used over on the other side. I'll hit Enter, and that all worked out. Sometimes when you do this, you'll get a result that looked a little like that last fillet edge where this isn't all joined together. If that happens to you, there's a couple of options you can do. The first thing would be just do an undo and get rid of the pipe that didn't turn out well. And then we're going to have to do something to the curve to sort of fix it up. So you can do what's called a fit curve, and I just usually type FIT, and then the command line will finish that for me. And what that does is it just averages all the points around your curve and equally spaces them out. So a lot of times when you have a curve that won't pipe, if you do that, that's enough to get that to work. So you could run the pipe command again. If that still doesn't work, undo that. And this time we'll do a rebuild. So we can go Edit, Rebuild. And what I usually do, these numbers in the brackets are how many points this curve actually has already. On something like this, I'll just match that so I can get as close as I can, but then sometimes I'll bump that up a degree, so it gives me a little more accuracy on the curve. I'll hit preview, and as long as nothing crazy happens to that shape, then I know I'm probably okay. So then I can type pipe again and walk through there, and you can see it work. Now mine happened to work the first time anyway, but a lot of times you're going to find that doesn't. Using the rebuild or the fit curve will get you out of sort of a sticky situation on that one. Then I just have to take this surface, and I'm going to do a split with that pipe that we just created. I'll delete the pipe, and then in here, that's the part that we just split. So I can delete that. I'll take my curve, I'll move that off to my curve layer. So now this is actually a separate floating piece up here. So we're going to go ahead and join that together. So we have this upper piece, and then we have the main body. Let me turn off both the volume knob and the antenna for a little while here so they're not kind of in our way. So I just need to do a blend surface to blend between this edge and these edges. So I'll come onto my surface menu. I'll select blend surface. Let me make sure that auto chain is set to equal yes. Actually, let me show you first. If that's still on no and I click here, can't go all the way around, so it doesn't automatically select the next edge. If I hit auto chain equals yes and click here, notice how it's able to go all the way around and select everything. So that's the complete first set of edges chosen. I'll hit enter, and now I'm on the second set. Still have auto chain set on, so now when I click on that, it automatically goes around and it knows that that's two closed edges it selected, so it knows it can just kind of pull those together. Now we can move these points around so we give it a different starting point. Sometimes I like to do that. If they're standing up nice and straight as these appear to be, then you can just kind of use this and let it go from there. So let's hit enter. Now the fillet we did over here was just a standard fillet, and that's a tangent fillet. So I'm going to switch that to tangent so they match. And I'll switch on preview. And under display here, let me switch on surface isocurve so we can kind of see what's going on. Now these cross sections are standing up fairly well, but if you have one set of edges that are made of just a few surfaces, and another set you're joining that have a bunch of multiple little kind of pieces like this one has, sometimes these UV curves will start to tip over. They'll be on a 45 or even a worse kind of an angle. If that happens, all you need to do is go through, click Add Shapes, and over here will be an example. You can see those are starting to turn. So I'll just click once here, and I make sure my perpendicular snap is on, and I just move this around the edge until it says perpendicular. And then I click. And see how it automatically straightens up those iso curves? Same here. I'll just add a few of those around the whole thing. That way we're forcing it to stand up. Now this is a good one right here. I've got this end point, and I'll come right here. And we got a perpendicular snap right there. And anywhere we got like a big surface transition, so maybe right here would be another spot for a good one. And the shaded preview, as long as this is checked, is updating every time I click that, so I get instant feedback if what I'm doing is helping or not helping. That looks pretty good. So we'll go ahead and hit OK on that. And now let me go into our layers, and we'll select our main body. So I'll right click, I'll choose Select Objects, and I'll join all the purple parts together. Then I'll choose Join, choose the main body, choose this, and then the upper part. And as soon as I clicked on that, you saw the timer go and everything turned purple. And the fact that it did that without me hitting enter lets me know that this piece is now a solid part.